It was the groundbreaking trial that survivors saw as a beacon of hope. But now a court has thrown out movie mogul Harvey Weinstein's 2020 conviction, leaving those who rallied against him reeling.
This today is an act of institutional betrayal, and our institutions betray survivors of male sexual violence.
The actress who made the first claim against Harvey Weinstein, launching the landmark sexual assault case, now leading the uproar at its ruling being overturned.
It's a hard day for survivors, but we live in our truth. We know what happened.
No matter what they overturn, they cannot take away who we are, what we know. We are people that were injured by evil.
New York's highest court has ruled the judge in Weinstein's 2020 trial made legal errors that unfairly prejudiced him and saw the disgraced Hollywood producer convicted of sex crimes and jailed for 23 years.
What the Court of Appeals said today is that, yes, no one is above the law, but no one is below the law either. You can't throw out 100 years of legal precedent because someone is unpopular.
A new trial's now been ordered. The court finding the original was muddied by witnesses with claims unrelated to the official charges.
The witnesses were there only to make Harvey Weinstein look bad, to show that he's a bad guy. He was tried on his character, not on the evidence.
The court also found the prosecution should not have been allowed to cross-examine Weinstein about other past bad behaviour.
You can't convict someone based on their entire life and everything that they've done in their life.
72-year-old Weinstein, who maintains his innocence, will remain behind bars regardless due to a separate rape conviction in LA. But his successful appeal is still a major blow to the Me Too movement.
We are devastated for the survivors who are connected to this case. A lot of us felt that we were on a road to seeing a different America. And this moment makes it feel like we were wrong.
Liana Kachatrian is a US attorney and has been following the case. Liana, were you surprised at the court's ruling?
Hi. I think we were all a little bit surprised, specifically because the ruling came down on such a small, nuanced area of law. And when you take a look at the case in its entirety and what it meant for such a big movement, such an impactful movement, that I think it was really surprising, because it almost comes off a little bit as a step backwards, right? This was a big moment in history. It was a big moment for the Me Too movement. It seemingly put somebody really bad away behind bars for a really long time and sent a message to the likes of him, the Hollywood elite, and the rich and powerful, men all around the world. And so to have a ruling like this come down on a very technical and nuanced area of the law, I think is really surprising because it just has such a negative impact on what's to come and future victims who may want to come forward.
But in pursuit of justice and the truth, shouldn't a judge's role be not following social movements?
I agree with you, absolutely. But what I think that we have to take into consideration is that courts allow character evidence to come in, and that's why we have specific jury instructions to allow the jury to understand that certain evidence is supposed to come in to determine X, certain evidence determines Y. And so this is something that happens routinely. And so to overturn an entire case like this, whether it had a big social impact or not, is really monumental.
That's the part that I think has impacted me the most in this ruling, because it seems to me to get to that point, either side will put up their witnesses and they get approved or not, and then obviously the judge has a say in that, and then the jury gets to their verdict, and there's a big process to get to. So at this point, with, of course, hindsight being 2020, do you think this conviction could have still happened if those witnesses hadn't have been allowed in the first place?
I do think so. The prosecution maybe overplayed their cards a little bit. I think there was more than enough evidence to move forward without all of the extra witnesses. I think it all kind of got fumbled in this movement. There were some mistakes made along the way that clearly were detrimental.
What does this mean for his accusers?
You know, that is such a loaded question, because I think that this is really disheartening and discouraging. But there have been a lot of attorneys who have represented the accusers and the victims who have come forward and said, my client will absolutely retestify. It's going to be grueling. It's going to be awful. But they feel so strongly that it sounds like a lot of them are willing to come forward again and sit through another trial, only to make sure that this man and the likes of him are put behind bars and a message is sent.
Now, as much as this New York verdict has been overturned, he still has a standing conviction in Los Angeles. Do you think that that's now going to come into question as well?
Not yet, but I'm sure that, so much of it almost hinged on what happened in New York. And this was actually a pretty big victory for him. So I have absolutely no doubt that there's going to be an appeal in California as well.
Liana, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.